Hey everybody, it's Thursday, and yeah, I don't normally do videos on Thursday, but this one's been, I've been chewing on this one since it happened, and I want to make a video of it because I want to put sort of an insider spin on the Lizzo situation. Not that I have any specific awareness of that situation, but as someone who's worked as both a producer and a dancer in the entertainment industry. I worked in music programming for many, many years. Um, and I've seen this kind of girl boss trend starting to be a thing, and I've had a lot of dismay about it because I was waiting for something like this to happen. And the sheer amount of press surrounding this has been the thing that's disturbing. People have the right, if they feel like they've been wronged, to sue. But these particular people have been doing media interviews about it before it's seen its day in court. And, there's been this pile on Lizzo. So I want to provide some perspective. And I've read the actual complaint, which a lot of people commenting on haven't. I'll put a link to the complaint in the description box so you can read for yourself. But the primary focus of the media attacks has been on Lizzo. And what I found notable is that Lizzo herself is very absent from a lot of the worst shit that was accused. And so I think that matters. But let me do the help support this channel. Help support this channel. Become a monthly patron. Patreon.com/Leanna K. That's the kind of stuff that fuels videos like this. Or buy a one-time Leanna Care session for someone who can use it but can't afford it. Coffee.com/Leanna K. Or Men's Network, GoFundMe. There's been a lot of interest in the Men's Network. Links in the description box for everything below. Please help out what you can. There's been a lot of interest in the Men's Network. It's been some work getting it off the ground, but I'm really excited to start that up in the fall. And yes, donations are slowly continuing to come in. Slow is good. I'm going real easy on this one because food inflation. But okay, so the nature of the claims against both the production company and Lizzo herself are pretty sensational. And I think it's very important to distinguish the production company, Big Girl Touring Inc., Big Girl Big Touring Inc., and then Lizzo's named herself, and then the dance captain and one of the hosts on the reality show, a woman by the name of Shirlene Quigley. And the behavior that Shirlene Quigley is accused of is much more cut and dried than the stuff that Lizzo herself is accused of. There was more direct contact with the dancers. It was specifically on work time. And, the production company is probably in some trouble. They'll have to financially settle. I don't think it's going to get shut down or anything like that. But things are being portrayed in the media that Lizzo did herself, and there's no evidence of that in the complaint. And the challenge, this was another thing with the whole Ellen DeGeneres scandal, where one, it's a violation of their brand. And this is something that drives me crazy because as a performer, you have to go on and act happy and act like you have everything together when you really don't. And you are acutely aware that the knives are out for you. And sometimes it's important for you to keep a healthy distance between you and, your employees / extended family. And that difficult combination, I think, really comes into play in this, because when you are as famous as Lizzo, even when you're not, when you're traveling, when you're touring, the relationship is not a typical work relationship. The only contact you have with people on a regular basis is with that your performance family. And that means lines get blurred in a way that doesn't happen in another type of job, and figuring out what's appropriate can be really, really difficult. And one of the big things that the plaintiffs are going to have to prove is that they didn't know that sexual content was part of the job when they agreed to take the job. And there are issues with their factual statements in it. And going over the whole thing will take a really long time, but they're accusing the company and Lizzo and this dance captain of a hostile work environment, sexual harassment, failure to prevent and or remedy hostile work environment sexual harassment. Lizzo is not accused of religious harassment personally. Failure to prevent and or remedy religious harassment, yes. Racial harassment, not accusing Lizzo of that, the company of that. Disability discrimination, is accusing Lizzo of that. Intentional interference with prospective economic advantage, against the company. Now, what that last thing is that the company said that they would prefer they not take jobs when they were on furlough. Now, that's sometimes common. This is one of the things that the SAG strike is about, that the work is too infrequent and it's too hard to plan other things, because, you know, you can be on call, like, you gotta go, you gotta get on a plane right away, it's time to go. This is one of the shitty realities of this kind of work. Is it fair? No. Is it part of what you sign up for, rightly or wrongly? Yes, it is. I say this as a former semi-pro competitive dancer. I did it as a teenager before my appendix blew up. Then I shifted to comedy. But it is intense. And getting into this, you have no job security. You get sick, you get hurt, you have no job. It sucks. That is industry standard. Which is part of the reason it's not something you're going to do, most people, your entire life. Now, the complexity of the particular work situation is there was a reality show before the actual tour. It was a show called Watch Out for the Big Girls, which was a competition reality show where the backup dancers were selected. Now, we all know that reality shows, crazy shit happens. It's not a typical work environment. But some of the stuff that went on the reality show was of a sexual nature, and therefore the dancers knew it was a sexualized work environment when they took the gig. The other thing I noticed was that there is very little evidence that certain things were complained about, and the complaint is worded in such a way where when people did complain, they did make accommodations. For instance, during the reality show where they were auditioning for becoming one of Lizzo's dancers, there was a nude photo shoot that they were expected to take part in. Now, yes, eye rolling. This is why I don't like reality TV. But it was a nude photo shoot as part of the TV competition. Now, part of doing a thing like that is to make people uncomfortable. But one of the plaintiffs actually complained, um and they allowed her to participate in a bra and underwear instead of naked. So that's a sign that even in the context of a reality TV show where like you can be eliminated, they're like, okay, we'll make accommodations. That's going to go against the plaintiff because it shows that they were willing to do reasonable accommodations, but it also shows that before they agreed to go on tour, they knew that the work involved nudity and included sexual situations. Now, that doesn't mean there isn't a line. I want to make that clear. But one of the defenses against sexual harassment complaints, and I know this because I worked on a show with dancing girls and women in the hot tub where there was nudity and sex toys involved. You have to have a very fine line. You have to make it so that nobody is coerced. Ideally, nobody feels coerced. And threading that needle can be very, very difficult. Now, keep in mind, it was not Lizzo's job to produce a TV show, to, generally wrangle the dancers. And it really seems that her name is attached to this to bring more attention to it, so they'll get fuck off money. So there'll be a settlement. Because the stuff Lizzo herself has actually done is fairly thin. A couple of wild parties and then a meltdown at the end because I put myself in Lizzo's position this way, and if I found out that one of my dancers was recording a conversation with me, I would probably lose my shit as well, because people go to the tabloids with that crap. So, if you're recording a conversation without saying, is it okay if I record this? The plaintiff claims she did it so she could review it when she was less anxious, because she has an anxiety condition. If that's the case, it's better to ask. But she keeps sitting here going, I was too afraid. I was too afraid. I was too afraid of losing my job. I was too afraid. Well, that alone is not enough defense against you run the risk of, if you're caught recording someone who values their privacy, who is their boss, without letting them know, you're employed at will. They can fire you for that. That in Lizzo's position, if I were her, would feel like an intense violation. And one of the things before all the shit hit the fan, one of the dancers, Ariana Davis, actually did an interview for the Indianapolis Star. She's from Indianapolis. And she said in the article that I'm on tour with my best friends. It's just like being around family 24/7. Now, saying it's like being around family 24/7 implies a closeness and an understanding that you're doing things together, that you're hanging out together. There is a breezier, more permissive environment than a strictly boss-employee relationship. That matters when you judge Lizzo's conduct, right? Because the only things Lizzo is directly involved in, there's one part where during there was an emergency rehearsal because Lizzo thought the dancers were drinking on the job. Now, there's nothing wrong with Lizzo going, I hear people are drinking on the job. I think the performance has slacked. The complainants, one of the plaintiffs actually quit. They weren't fired. Another complainant was fired basically for an attitude problem. Basically, they were not fired for gaining weight, and you never are. Okay, they find some euphemism. It's a shitty part of the business, but reading between the lines, right from the beginning, at least one of these plaintiffs just didn't seem to be in a headspace to do this job. She did disclose an anxiety condition during the intake process for the reality show. They had to do a psychiatric evaluation to basically make sure they could um, they could withstand the stress of touring and performing. Anxiety, depression, occasional binge eating. And she waived confidentiality to undergo that. So there is no expectation of confidentiality. So when they then complain that people talked about certain aspects of their private business, well, they signed a waiver, which I wouldn't do, but this is why I don't do reality TV. This is why I don't watch reality TV. The only reality TV I watched for a while was The Voice. That's it. So going in, no expectation of confidentiality, no expectation of a chaste environment. Now, being lectured about Christianity, not what they signed up for. I think they may actually, well, in America, somebody preaching about Jesus might get away with it. But the thing that Lizzo was directly involved in was a couple of parties while they were touring in Amsterdam and Paris. And those parties got wild. They did. They were pretty wild. And this is why I say, personal experience. I have been to parties that got wild. I mean, part of my job when I worked in TV was interviewing adult film stars, sex workers, cam girls, that kind of stuff. Some of it involved being on set. Yes, I had a chocolate phallus thrown at me one time on a set. There were a lot of sex toys involved in segments. That was really fun when I weren't on to work for Disney and they background checked me. They got all of those videos. They got videos of me and Jessie Jane and this giant suction cup dildo. Yeah, that was an interesting conversation. But am I going to say, oh my God, I was sexually harassed? No, that was the point of the job. Now, this was not mandatory. They claim people who attended after party events had greater job security. But they're only talking about 2 events that seem to be problems. If they missed one, I don't suspect Lizzo would have cared. There's no examples in the filing showing retaliation from anyone skipping 1 or 2 events. And then it got rowdy at the event. And I mean, if you're doing this sort of stuff, they planned an event out in Amsterdam's red light district. And the plaintiffs claim they were in Amsterdam and it was somebody's birthday and they were in Amsterdam and they were going out and they claim they didn't know what they were getting into. They're going to have to prove that because it's Amsterdam and we know what Amsterdam's for. And the audition was a nude photo shoot. Let's be adults here. Now, it was pretty wild. And it does sound like there was some pressure. It was out there. The audience was catching dildos launched from performers for JJ's. But it doesn't, there was pressure to touch one of the women performing, topless women performing, touch her breast. But it doesn't say there was any pressure to do anything more than that. And it wasn't do it or you're fired. It was just, chanting, come on, come on. I can see that being uncomfortable. Um but apparently um members of management and the security team asked her after the fact, "Are you okay?" And she only said no to one of those, and it doesn't say in the complaint what happened when she said she wasn't okay. That's important because she said she wasn't okay and there was no retaliation. So she went, it wasn't her thing. It something of that kind never happened again. They say so. The next issue was far less out there. She talked about Lizzo doing PDAs with her boyfriend, possibly an orgy with members of the band. That's none of the dancer's business. That stuff happens. I never liked it when I was privy to that, but because of that extended family reality of touring, there are overshares, there are too much information, it's squicky. It was their retaliation. Was there retaliation? That detail seems to me just put in to embarrass Lizzo and undermine her image. And that makes me ill. That seems like a bad faith clause. It looks like something intended to embarrass her to settle. Then there was a thing that happened to a security guard, but the security guard's not named in the suit. So, why is this relevant to this particular suit? The security guard's not complaining. Maybe he's going to be added to the suit. I don't know. But then another event happens at a place. They were told in Paris they were going to Crazy Horse. Now, Googling Crazy Horse indicates it's a wild time. It's a nude cabaret bar. And so they're claiming Lizzo failed to mention this, but Lizzo told them the name of the place. They could have Googled it. So it's not like there was any attempt to conceal. And they said, while the show at Crazy Horse was artful and nowhere near as uncomfortable as their outing to Banana Bar, the place in Amsterdam, plaintiffs were shocked that Lizzo would conceal the nature of the event from them, robbing them of the choice not to participate. They can argue that she said it's at Crazy Horse. They could have Googled it. She wasn't hiding where they were going. It's open what the place is. It's like, we're going to Disney World. I didn't think I'd see Mickey Mouse. That's not, there's an ability for the company to say, look, they were told where it was going to be. And if your argument is not anything actually bad happened there, we were actively concealed. No, they weren't. Based on the content of the parties here. Now we're talking about two events as well. How long ago? February 23rd and then March 5th. So this happened 2 weeks apart. So we have two events 2 weeks apart. Not much before of this nature, not much after. So can we call this a pattern? Because then they go into money squabbles. And then they get into, one of the things during and it seemed I'm getting scattered because I'm trying to read at the same time. But it seems that after this, there was a a break. Um, then there was an email sent to the cast um, that the dancers had unacceptable and disrespectful behavior while on tour and warning them that it was cause for termination. Now, they claim they weren't explained what that meant. But there's no direct link, and maybe it'll come out if it goes to trial. But there's no direct link between the parties in Amsterdam and Paris and that. Um it could have been a negotiating tactic because then they were going on hiatus, but said only the dance cast, comprised of full-figured women of color, were ever spoken to in this manner, giving plaintiffs the impression that those comments were charged with racial and fatphobic animus. That's where the accusation of fatphobic comes from. No one was ever told, you're getting fat, which is the part that's so damaging to Lizzo's reputation, right? If you read the articles about this, it's, oh, Lizzo fat shamed the dancers. It wasn't Lizzo. It was the management. And the whole point that Lizzo and her dancers are plus size. That's the whole thing. So the idea that somebody's fired for being heavy, they're going to have to prove that because on its face, it seems bizarre. And this email marked the beginning of a strained relationship between the dancers and management. So management is going to claim, no, the dancers' unprofessional behavior and attitude problems were what started the strained relationship. And they're probably going to paint these women as just being unable to handle criticism and retroactively, doing this stuff. And then it goes back and forth with meetings, more soft holds, which means you're not fired, but you're not getting paid, or you're only getting a retainer of, it ended up being 25%. Because they were arguing about money at this point. The dancers wanted a 15% retainer. A 50% retainer, the company was offering 25. And then the management began to lash out at the dancers, not Lizzo, the management. And this is where the racial discrimination claim comes in, that they were treating black members of the dance team differently. And the management team was almost entirely white Europeans. Now, is this possible? Yeah. Apparently, they accuse them of being lazy, unprofessional, and having bad attitudes. Does this happen to black people in the entertainment industry? Absolutely. Absolutely. I've seen it. I completely believe that this was done. And they're going to get in trouble for that. But again, management, not Lizzo. Did Lizzo know? Probably not. These companies are really good at telling Lizzo one thing and, the rest of the team another. Divide and conquer. So then, April 20th, over a month later, there's an 8-hour rehearsal. Lizzo comes in, calls everybody together. She wants to talk about the unprofessionalism thing. She said the dancers were not performing up to par and accused them of drinking alcohol before the shows. Even though the dance cast had never partaken in such a practice. Well, okay, so you didn't. Cool. Lizzo said all the dancers would be required to re-audition for their spots, which is her right. If she doesn't think the show is up to quality, if she thinks they're slacking, she has that right. And so they ran the show. And the audition was supposed to be 8 hours, is extended to almost 12. So a 50% add-on. But one of the complainants insists that it was Lizzo's responsibility to have the dancer use the bathroom when she needed to. The dancer lost control of her bladder while performing because she was so afraid she was going to get fired if she took a pee break. There is no evidence that this was anything but her anxiety condition, because it doesn't make sense. If you have to go pee, you have to go pee. And then the sensational element of giving her transparent shorts to wear made the media. But what it was that the only clothing that they could give her to change into, because she was dancing in soiled clothes, the only thing they had to give her was a garment that was kind of see-through. It was the wardrobe department. So, you know, it was part of the show. You've seen the costumes with Lizzo. You cannot claim that the star of the show is responsible for a dancer knowing how to regulate their own bodily functions. By their own claim, there's no evidence that she was told she had to stay. She wasn't restrained from using the bathroom. She made the choice. And she wasn't fired after that, even though people would have to be, why did she piss herself? You know, but nothing was said. They showed up the next day. Next day, reiterated, no drinking before the show. Now, one of the plaintiffs, pushed back, said dancers never drank alcohol prior to the shows. The dance captain, who did all the bad things, according to the claim, supported that person. And Lizzo mockingly responded, well, if you're not, then good for y'all. And then she said, maybe the accusations of drinking before shows were on account of the dancer's poor performance. I don't see anything wrong with that. I see a frustrated show lead going, you guys got to step this up. They claim there's tension between the management, Lizzo, and Ms. Williams, the dance captain. It's like, surely, of course there is. Of course there is. On tours like this, of course. The woman who stood up to Lizzo there didn't get fired. The woman who peed herself was called into a meeting that day and asked whether she was struggling with something, because she seemed less committed to her role on the dance cast. She was pushed for an explanation why she seemed less bubbly and vivacious. And it says, in professional dance, a dancer's weight gain is often seen as a dancer getting lazy or worse off as a performer. But she wasn't accused of being lazy. She was accused of being less bubbly. Not the same thing. They're right that, I had my weight picked on to the point I developed anorexia as a teenager. It's real. It's real. But there's no evidence that they were picking on her weight. And they say, Lizzo's and Miss Scott's questions about Miss Davis' commitment to the tour were thinly veiled concerns about Miss Davis's weight gain, which Lizzo had previously called attention to after noticing at the South by Southwest Music Festival. I don't know when the South by Southwest Music Festival was, but she kept her job. You know, Miss Davis stated that she was dealing with personal issues, but did not, nor would she ever let it affect her work. So on and so forth. No, she's an even better dancer. Lizzo and Miss Scott weren't satisfied. Continued to press, just as she was at Banana Bar. Well, no, Banana Bar was a fun night. This was a work conversation. Lizzo was relentless until Miss Davis bent to her demands. What demands? Although Lizzo and Miss Scott never explicitly stated it, these questions, accompanied by Lizzo's statements made after the South by Southwest Music Festival, gave Ms. Davis the impression that she needed to explain her weight gain and disclose intimate personal details about her life in order to keep her job. So she shared that she'd been struggling with anxiety, depression, and diagnosed with binge eating disorder. She was still committed to the tour. In response, Lizzo and Ms. Scott dismissively offered Ms. Davis time off of rehearsals to attend therapy. You're going to have time off for therapy. That's a dismissal. I mean, not in my world, but the offer seemed strange to Ms. Davis and made her feel like if she accepted the time off, Lizzo and BGBT, the management, would see her as too weak to continue as a member of the dance class cast. Accordingly, Ms. Davis declined, thinking it was the only way she could keep her job. None of that's proven. If she took the time off to attend therapy and then they replaced her, that's different. She declined it. She declined it. The dancer that stood up to Lizzo 5 days later was cut, citing budget cuts. Now, it was done badly, but Lizzo wasn't involved with that. It wasn't Lizzo. And then there's another meeting on April 27th. During the meeting, Lizzo stated she had heard that one of the dancers questioned why Lizzo hadn't fired Ms. Williams, the dancer was fired directly. Lizzo repeatedly demanded to know who questioned her decision to fire her, and once again reminded the dance cast that she had eyes and ears everywhere. That just sounds like somebody cracking under the pressure. She said, don't socialize with her. Okay. And she gave notes. Now all of a sudden there's an eye condition that comes out and she becomes disoriented in stressful situations. And this is when the audio recording comes into play. So put it from Lizzo's perspective, okay? You've offered a person time off for therapy because they have an anxiety condition. And so after that, she secretly records a conversation she has with Lizzo. In Lizzo's situation, I'm going to go, okay, I offered her a chance to get therapy, to get herself together. She said no, and now she's recording me. What the fuck is going on here? Which is pretty much what happened. She found out somebody was recording her. She didn't handle it in the best way, but she was probably freaked out. Found out it was the person who just turned down therapy. And, she was, what happened was she said she wanted to have a copy, of the notes. And she said she never intended to harm Lizzo with the recording and it even deleted it the day after recording. Lizzo says, there is nothing you can say to make me believe you. And she was fired. Now, she was clearly fired for making the recording, not anything else. And in Lizzo's situation, you can understand why. Put yourself in her situation. That woman has taken nothing but shit. She has been a culture war target. Did she handle it well? No. Is it completely human? Trust me, as someone who's been in that situation, yeah, you do go volcano because of the pressure and because of the scrutiny. And being recorded without your knowledge is a violation. So that's when the third complainant quit. And now we have a lawsuit. This stuff happens. And I think there probably was some shenanigans by the production company. And this is why it's usually a bad idea to do reality TV shows as an addendum to a tour or anything like that. Reality TV shows are environments that up the pressure to create drama for so-called good television. They are shitty work environments. And the problem this suit is going to have is because of that introduction, because there was a nude photo shoot as part of the intake process, they're going to have a really hard time, especially when you see, the wardrobe's underwear. They're going to have a really hard time proving that sexual content was not part of the job. And they chose to take the job after participating in that photo shoot. The racial discrimination, the getting preached about Christianity, the forced to be participating in prayer, all that's fair game. They couldn't know. But the sex parties, one, they were optional. Two, there was no proof of retaliation because of that. And I'm sure there's tape showing whether or not the performance had slipped. And the reality is that could have just been Lizzo being anxious because, being piled on by the entire right wing of U.S. politics for playing a flute. That could have gotten to her. Being attacked for daring to be on The Mandalorian might have gotten to her. Who knows? But this tie-in to weight, or this tie-in that was some sort of retaliation for not participating in parties, they'd have to show that people who didn't attend the parties got worse treatment. Like, there is a bar that they have to meet here that is going to be tough. Could be true. But based on what's in this claim, Lizzo herself does not deserve having her name dragged through the mud. The correlations, the lines being drawn are inferences. At no point did somebody say, and they don't. I understand they don't. I understand coded language. It's happened to me. But the whole point is you can't prove it unless you say, I'm not comfortable with this, and then you're fired. The woman who's the bulk of the complaints wasn't fired for peeing herself on stage, for attending, for not being the life of the party in Amsterdam. None of that. She was fired for making a recording. And they can make a plausible case that was a violation of the performer's trust as a public person who has been under the microscope of scrutiny. They have a defense there. The other one quit, so they can't claim it was a retaliatory firing. And the strongest case to me, just having been there, is the one who mouthed off and then got fired for budget cuts. Now, it could be the tour was in trouble and that's why there was all this stress. Who knows? But, you can't make a recording of your boss, get fired for it, and then retroactively say, oh no, it was a toxic work environment. When people asked you if you were okay, you were offered therapy. It sounds like it was just a rowdy environment. Now, more could come out. This dance captain sounds like a bit of a problem, but at the end of the day, even with everything she did defend her people to Lizzo. So this is a very one-sided view of what happened, and I just think it's totally, totally wrong for people to jump the gun and go, oh, Lizzo's a phony. I'm so disappointed. I saw one person go, I guess I never considered that she wasn't perfect. Just because someone has an affirmational message, just because someone wants to promote positivity, doesn't mean they're a saint. And this is taking the rowdiest, most tense moments of a very lengthy tour, and that's all we see of this person. Not the time in between, not the, they did not have to offer her time off to go to therapy. And again, if she'd taken it and was then cut, you got a case. I don't know. I think it really reads to me, especially with all the media they're doing, they are just trying to get a payout to staunch the bleeding, to stop the negative press. Because, you know, as somebody who's had to make sure we pass the legal hurdle to not, and you know, I I was the bad guy trying to prevent dancers from being sexually harassed. Yeah, crew members, male crew members make shitty comments. All that is absolutely real. And I don't think the company probably did. If they'd focused on that instead of trying to smear Lizzo, personally, I would have had more sympathy. But some of this stuff is just try to offload blame for, you know, when someone can't adult enough to take themselves to the bathroom when they need to, and they blame their boss for that, you got to start questioning their perspective here, and why the lawyer thought that was a good thing to include, and why the media wasn't taking a more critical eye towards that. You know, nobody told her you can't go pee. She was afraid for her job. This is where I start going, you can't call it an opportunity of a lifetime and also say it was so terrible I wasn't even allowed bathroom breaks. That kind of torture is not an opportunity. If she'd gone to the bathroom and was punished for it, different story. But think about that from the other side. If you're the people supervising that and someone has soiled themselves on stage and danced in soiled clothes, and you'd start going, is this person all right? What's going on here? You know, there's another side to this. And I just am sick. I can see how it was a bad time in a lot of ways. For the reality show component, I never would have gotten anywhere near that. That was probably shitty and started everybody off exhausted. But going after Lizzo as if she was omnipotent and in control of the management of the tour, and lumping her stuff she did on her off time with optional attendance without evidence that anybody had really been retaliated against for not attending, that just seems like dragging her through the mud to try to get a settlement. And that's dirty. And that's not fair. And we can't shove women into, be a girl boss, take charge, and then set them up to fall like this. We have to give people benefit of the doubt, and having a positive message doesn't mean you're a saint. It doesn't mean you don't have bad days. And, you know, it seems like Lizzo was under siege, and, well, she kind of was, because one of her dancers was recording her without her knowing. Like, if you flip to the other side, yeah, anybody's going to be pissed there. So that's my take. For what it's worth, please read the complaint before you judge her, because this isn't fair. This is guilty until proven innocent. And I think these people were wronged. I think they're blaming the wrong person. Help support this channel. Become a monthly patron. Patreon.com/Leanna K. Buy a one-time Leanna Care session for someone who can use it but can't afford it. Coffee.com/Leanna K. And the GoFundMe for the network. Hope you enjoyed this special extra Thursday video.